So I'm here right now with Paul Bonnett from Nutrien Ag Solutions. Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Eric.
So again, the sessions we've had prior to now have talked on the finance side, but you and I are going to get down more into the ag technology part of the equation. So I wanted to talk a little bit about ag tech adoption in agronomy. So on that front, let's look at the positive first. What is fueling the growth in that sector?
Yes, so Eric, I'm actually pretty excited about some of the new technologies that we're starting to see. We're starting to see, I think, probably since the evolution and the introduction of GMO crops, for the first time, technologies that can really change the way that we do production agriculture. Three kind of major areas. There's been a lot of investment from the R&D companies around short stature corn. At least two of the big basics are going to be introducing that over the next 5 years. We see that not only helping with managing the weather and wind particularly, but also enables us to think about how we manage the crop throughout the season. The second area is what we call machine-enabled agronomy. So this is everything from vision-based spraying for weeds all the way through to drone applications, which are starting to become live. Just recently, Trump had an executive order about unleashing the US drone market. And we see that as a big opportunity, particularly in the specialty crops, but also moving into the row crops. And then finally, you can't help but just ignore what's going on with artificial intelligence. The second area where we see big opportunities around weed management, off the back of the kind of vision-based spraying, we also see the introduction of a number of new trait stacks from the basics around soybeans. It's going to make it much more complicated. There's more regulatory pressure coming through. And then finally, the area that's really close to my heart is around soil health. We see this as the next frontier of agronomy. The evolutions of DNA testing coupled with biological products really enable us to usher a new era when it comes to nutrient use efficiency.
Interesting. Yeah, I know. And again, I've talked to folks in the past, whenever you're trying to start something new, it always helps to have sort of the support structure, the network, the system behind it. And it sounds like that's starting to finally happen. Because I know I've heard you talk before about some of the stages we've seen when you saw technology adoption happen, like in the 2010s in particular, into the, now into the 2020s. And that, you have to have that infrastructure in place before stuff actually starts to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, what is new is old. I look back at, we're in Iowa. There's been the idea of technology in agriculture is not new. There's actually a really nice couple of papers from Iowa State back in the 50s. The first is titled How Farm People Accept New Ideas. That's from a guy called Coleman. Talks all around the adoption cycle, and that everything we see around early adopters, innovators, laggards, that was all came from the study of hybrid introduction into the US. And the other interesting thing is, when it comes about new ideas, it's about the diffusion of ideas. In Iowa, it took 6 years for 100% of hybrid corn to be adopted between 1934 and 1940. In Alabama, they didn't even start with hybrid corn until 44. And even by 1956, 12 years later, they only got to 60%. So, this idea of adoption of technology isn't necessarily new. We're talking about it here at the Ag Tech, but this is something that farming has looked at for many years. I think there's three things that really enable new technology to be adopted and have been a problem for the ag tech space, at least since I've been involved. The first is understanding the desirability. Obviously, this is the ROI, but this is also thinking about the efficiency at the farm level. It has to make sense at the farm. And also, I think increasingly at the retail level, the last mile of that technology adoption is crucial. And that really leads into the second issue. A lot about the technology is about the practical implementation. And I look after agronomy for Nutrien Ag Solutions. I love to think that everything's about agronomy, but the reality is if you can't service in terms of logistics, you can't have product, and you can't actually price and sell, then the agronomy plays a second part. So that practical aspect's important. And then the third part is, it's kind of just interesting. As big as Nutrien is, we don't cover every acre. And as big as John Deere is, they can't service our entire customer app. We have to work with other players. So that local support becomes super important. And when we think about the ag tech, side of things, being able to target specific areas of the country, which may look like it's only a percentage of the market, but if you can't support that market, then technology adoption becomes really difficult.
Okay. So again, yeah, that's talking about how the technology is being driven forward, fueling, moving forward. Flipping that question on its head then, what do you see as sort of some of the market hurdles, the things that might slow down adoption, and how will companies like Nutrien Ag Solutions and others try to overcome those hurdles?
Well, I think I've been coming to these type of events since about 2012. I think there's been a maturity in the ag tech space. The idea that digital is going to disrupt the fabric of the business models has really stepped back. From a Nutrien perspective, there's three things we think about. One is we do want to partner. We can't, invent everything ourselves. We don't have the bandwidth. There's great technology out there. We don't own every aspect of the value chain. So partnerships is number one. Number two is being able to test at scale. One of the things we've invested in are these innovation farms across the United States. These are full-scale farming operations where we use all of the equipment that a farmer would use. It allows us to understand not only the ROI, but how do you practically implement, a new liquid system on a planter? How do you implement new testing technologies? How do you implement new sensor technologies? It allows our crop consultants to really have that firsthand. We're able to demonstrate that to the growers. We're able to work with our partners to explain what's the problems. And that allows us to accelerate the technology. We do this with the startup community. We do this with the equipment companies. We do this with the R&D companies as well. And the idea is that we can accelerate that technology adoption cycle as fast as we can. And then the third thing is, as I mentioned, it has to be integrated into the fabric of agriculture, which means not only agronomy, it means logistics, and it also means the economic aspects. How we do the charging, how do we do the rebates, how do we actually get invoicing done? Those are the kind of major barriers that we try to address through our digital hub and our integrations that we've been doing over the last 5 years.
Very good. Yeah. And I know and speaking for myself, I know you just opened one of those centers you're talking about near Champaign, Illinois, I believe, a couple months ago, right?
Yeah, we have about 280 acres at Champaign. We had the farm for a number of years. We just opened a new building there. It's really meant to be a hub for the local community, but also for ag tech to come and test out new technologies. Mostly corn and beans in that area, but we do have innovation farms across the US that cover the other aspects of cropping production.
Is that the closest one here to where we at in Des Moines, Iowa? Or?
Yeah, that would be the Champaign location.
Yeah, so audience, if you're interested, I reach out to Paul. It's a nice facility. I can vouch for it. So, one thing I wanted to follow up on, again, you said earlier a little bit about when the cropping systems were coming into place, like you said in the 40s, 50s, and some of the regional differences that we saw, where adoption took place. When you're talking about ag technology, do you foresee or can you foresee certain regions of ag adopting these technology innovations faster than others? And if so, where do you see the faster adoption taking place and why?
Yeah, so going back to the adoption of hybrid corn, the big thing I think there was obviously you had Pioneer in Iowa. It's the center point of the hybrid innovation. But also you had larger farms in the Midwest. As you got into the South, the farms got a lot smaller. And I think that kind of mirrors where we see technology adoption. I think if you've got the large farms over 5,000 acres, you have maybe about 81% of those growers willing to test technologies. The 2,000 to 5,000, which is the real sweet spot for retail, that's still in the 70s. When it gets to the smaller growers, less than 2,000, you drop off to about 30%. So I think the big growers are going to be interested more in the logistics, more in the economics. The medium-sized growers are the ones that really care and rely on the retail to actually reach out on the agronomy side. So that kind of sweet spot in the middle is probably where the target is for adoption.
Okay, interesting. All right. Well, Paul, certainly enjoyed your time with us this morning. Thank you for joining us. And Paul, I'm sure will be around. So if you have any questions for him about anything about ag technology adoption and Nutrien Ag Solutions, please reach out to him. And on behalf of the CropLife Media Group, thanks for joining us. And we'll be back in a couple of minutes with our next Fireside Chat. Thank you.